If you enjoy stories about family, tough love, and life-changing lessons, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and comment your thoughts below. Your support means everything. I'm 58 years old, and I'll never forget the moment my son screamed those words at me. It was a Tuesday evening in March 2023. I'd just come home from my shift at the hospital where I work as a senior nurse. My son Brandon was 26, living in my basement rent-free, playing video games 16 hours a day. He had a college degree gathering dust while he spent my money on gaming equipment and takeout food. That evening, I'd asked him to at least wash the dishes he'd used. Simple request. Basic respect. His response still echoes in my mind. "I wish you were dead," he screamed, controller still in his hands, eyes never leaving the screen. "Then I could sell this house and finally live my life without you nagging me constantly." The words hit me like a physical blow. My wife, Karen, had died 4 years ago from breast cancer. I'd raised Brandon alone since he was 22, working double shift to pay off his college loans. And this was my thanks. I stood in that doorway, frozen. Brandon didn't even look at me. Just kept playing his game like he hadn't just told his father he wished him dead. That night, I made a decision that would change both our lives forever. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying Brandon's words over and over. "I wish you were dead." Not said in anger during an argument, said casually like he was commenting on the weather. Karen and I had spoiled him. We knew it even then, but she'd been sick for so long. We just wanted Brandon happy. After she died, I couldn't bring myself to be tough on him. He was grieving. I was grieving. So I let things slide. 1 semester off from job hunting became a year. A year became 2. 2 became 4. Now Brandon was 26, hadn't worked a single day since college, and treated me like an ATM machine who occasionally annoyed him with requests. I'd enabled this. I knew that. But hearing him wish me dead, that crossed a line I couldn't ignore anymore. By 3 a.m, I'd formed a plan. It was radical, maybe even cruel. But sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them hit rock bottom. I was going to give Brandon exactly what he said he wanted. I was going to disappear from his life. Completely. Let's see how he survived without me. Wednesday morning, I called my brother Thomas. He lived 2 states away in Colorado, ran a small construction company. We'd always been close, talked every week since Karen died. "Tom, I need a huge favor," I said. "Anything, Richard. What's going on?" I explained everything. Brandon's behavior, the terrible thing he'd said, my plan to disappear and let Brandon figure out life on his own. Thomas was quiet for a moment. Then, "That's harsh, brother. But honestly, kid needs a wake-up call. What you need from me? A place to stay for a few months. And help making it look like something happened to me. You're gonna fake your death?" "Not exactly. More like vanish mysteriously. Let Brandon think something terrible might have happened. Let him feel what it's like to lose me. Really lose me." Thomas sighed heavily. This could backfire badly. Or it could save him. I countered. Right now, he's wasting his life. He needs to learn consequences. Value. Responsibility. I've tried everything else. "All right," Thomas agreed. "Come to Colorado. Stay as long as you need. But Richard, have an exit strategy. Know when to reveal yourself." I promised I would. Then I started planning. Over the next 3 days, I carefully prepared. I withdrew cash from my accounts. Not all of it, but enough to live on. I left the rest so Brandon would have access temporarily. I wanted him uncomfortable, not homeless. I wrote a letter and sealed it with my lawyer, with instructions to give it to Brandon after 60 days of my disappearance. The letter explained everything. Why I'd left, what I hoped he'd learn, and how to contact me when he was ready to change. I told my supervisor at the hospital that I needed emergency family leave. She was understanding. "Take the time you need, Richard. You've got plenty of leave saved up." I packed a single suitcase. Clothes, medications, photos of Karen. I left everything else, my car, my phone, all the things that could be traced. Friday morning, I wrote a note and left it on the kitchen table. "Brandon, I need some time away to think. Don't try to find me. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. Dad. Then I called a cab, left my house at 5 in the morning before Brandon woke up and disappeared. Thomas picked me up at the airport in Denver. You really doing this? He asked. I really am. I confirmed. Then let's see if tough love works, Thomas said, driving toward the mountains. I settled into Thomas's guest room. His house was small but comfortable, nestled in the mountains outside Boulder. He lived alone, divorced, no kids. So my presence wasn't disruptive. What's your plan? Thomas asked over coffee that first morning. I wait. I watch from a distance. I let Brandon figure out what life looks like when I'm not there to catch him. You're going to check on him? From afar, I have a neighbor, Mrs. Chun, who I asked to keep an eye on the house. She'll let me know if anything alarming happens. But otherwise, Brandon's on his own. That first day was hard. I kept thinking about Brandon, wondering if he'd even noticed I was gone yet. He usually slept until noon, so probably not. By evening, my old phone, which I left hidden in my bedroom closet back home, connected to Wi-Fi, started buzzing with activity. I'd set it up so I could monitor it remotely from a tablet Thomas lent me. First text came at 1:47 p.m. Dad, where are you? Then at 2:15 p.m. Seriously, where did you go? By 3:30 p.m. Dad, this isn't funny. Where are you? I didn't respond. That was the hardest part. Every instinct screamed to answer, to reassure him. But I couldn't. Not yet. Day 2. Brandon's text became more frantic. Dad, I found your note. What does this mean? Where did you go? Are you okay? Then, Dad, please answer me. I'm worried. By evening, I called the hospitals. You're not there. Were you? I felt guilty reading those messages, but I steeled myself. Brandon needed to feel this, needed to understand what it meant to potentially lose someone. Day 3, Brandon filed a missing person report. Mrs. Chin called me. I'd given her Thomas's number as an emergency contact. Richard, your son is frantic, she said. Police were here asking questions. He seems genuinely worried about you. Good, I said, though my heart ached. Let him worry. Don't tell him you've heard from me. Are you sure about this approach? No, I admitted, but I'm out of other options. Mrs. Chin promised to keep my secret, but made me promise to check in daily, so she'd know I was safe. Day 4, Brandon posted on social media. My dad is missing. If anyone has seen Richard Morrison, please contact me immediately. I'm scared something happened to him. The post had dozens of comments from concerned friends and neighbors. Brandon replied each one, thanking them, providing details. I read every word, heartbreaking and healing simultaneously. By the end of week 1, Brandon had done something I never expected. He'd organized a search party. Mrs. Chun sent me photos. 20 people gathered in my driveway on Saturday morning. Neighbors, Brandon's old high school friends, even some of my co-workers from the hospital. They spread out across the neighborhood, checking parks, trails, anywhere I might have gone. Brandon led them, looking exhausted and terrified, dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes. He clearly hadn't been sleeping. He really loves you, Thomas observed, looking at the photos over my shoulder. He does, I agreed. He just forgot, got comfortable, took me for granted. So when you come back, when he's learned what he needs to learn. That evening, Brandon was interviewed by the local news. I watched the segment on Thomas's TV. Tears streaming down my face. My dad is everything to me, Brandon said, voice cracking. I can't lose him. If anyone knows anything, please help me find him. Thomas looked at me. Richard, I know, I whispered. I know this is hard on him, but it's necessary. That night, Brandon did something else unexpected. He cleaned the house, top to bottom. Mrs. Chin reported that she'd seen him carrying out bags of trash, vacuuming, scrubbing. Change was beginning. Week 2 brought more transformation. Mrs. Chen's report showed Brandon maintaining the house. He'd started cooking actual meals instead of ordering takeout. He was keeping regular hours, going to bed early, waking up at reasonable times. But more importantly, he'd started job hunting. Mrs. Chen saw him at the library using their computers, dressed in a button-down shirt, printing resumes. He looks different, she told me during one of our daily calls. More grown up? Is that strange to say? No, I said, pride and sadness mixing. It's what I hoped for. Brandon's social media showed the change too. No more gaming posts. Instead, thanks everyone for the support. I'm trying to stay strong and keep busy while we search for my dad. Started applying for jobs today. Dad always said idle hands lead idle minds. He was right. Thomas raised his eyebrows. Kids, quoting your wisdom now. He never listened before. I said, quietly. He had to lose me to hear me. Day 16, Brandon got a job interview. Mrs. Chen saw him leave in slacks and a tie, clothes he'd had to buy because he didn't own professional attire. Where's he getting money? Thomas asked. I left some in our joint account. I explained. Enough for basics, but not enough to be comfortable. He has to be careful with it. Brandon got the job. Entry-level position at a marketing firm. Not glamorous, but honest work. His first day at work, Brandon posted, started my new job today. Wish Dad was here to see it. He always believed I could do more with my life. I'm trying, Dad. Wherever you are, I'm trying. I cried reading that. Thomas handed me tissues without comment. How much longer? He asked. The lawyer gives him my letter in 2 more weeks. I said, on day 60. That's when he'll learn the truth. What if he hates you? Then I'll deserve it. But at least he'll be on his feet. Independent. That's all I want. Week 3. Brandon's transformation continued. He was excelling at his job. Mrs. Chen heard from neighbors who worked at the same company. He was reliable, hard-working, eager to learn. At home, he'd taken over all the responsibilities I used to handle. Bills were paid. Lawn was mowed. House was maintained. He was living like a functional adult. But he was also still searching for me. Every evening after work, he'd drive around for an hour, checking places I used to go. The park where Karen and I had our first date. The coffee shop where I read Sunday papers. The hospital where I worked. He never gave up hope. That killed me and healed me simultaneously. Day 43. Brandon did something that almost made me reveal myself early. He visited Karen's grave. Mrs. Chen didn't tell me this. I found out because Brandon posted about it. A photo of Karen's headstone. Fresh flowers laid in front of it. His caption, Mom, I don't know where Dad is. I'm scared. I said something terrible to him before he disappeared, and I can't stop thinking that maybe he left because of me. I told him I wished he was dead. What kind of son says that? I was angry about doing dishes. And now he's gone and I can't take it back. I can't apologize. I can't tell him I didn't mean it. I love him so much and I never told him enough. Please, if you can hear me, help me find him, or help him find his way home. I sat in Thomas's guest room, sobbing. Thomas came in, sat beside me, put his arm around my shoulders. That's enough, brother, he said gently. You proved your point. The kid's changed. He's learned his lesson. Time to go home. Not yet. I managed through tears. The letter. He needs to read the letter. Why? Because he needs to understand not just that I'm alive, but why I did this. He needs to process this completely, or the lesson won't stick. Thomas shook his head but didn't argue. Day 57. Brandon had a breakdown. Mrs. Chen called me, voice urgent. Richard, I think you need to come back. Brandon's not doing well. What happened? I saw him sitting on your porch last night at 2 a.m, just crying. He's keeping it together during the day, going to work, maintaining the house, but he's falling apart emotionally. The letter comes in 3 days. I said, he just needs to hold on 3 more days. Richard, as your friend, I have to say, this has gone far enough. You've made your point. The boy has changed completely. Don't break him. I won't, I promised. 3 more days. Then he'll understand everything. Those final 3 days were torture for both of us. Brandon continued his routine, work, home search. But I could see the weight on him through Mrs. Chen's reports and his social media. He posted less, spoke less, just kept moving forward mechanically, functioning but not living. I'd wanted him to feel loss, to understand what he had, but I'd never wanted to break him. Watching him deteriorate emotionally made me question everything. You're still sure about this? Thomas asked on day 59. No, I admit it, but I'm committed now. One more day. Then he gets the letter. Day 60 arrived. My lawyer, Patricia Moore, had strict instructions to deliver the letter personally to Brandon at exactly 5 p.m. I watched the clock all day. Thomas had taken the day off work to stay with me. We sat in his living room, me pacing nervously, him pretending to read but clearly worried about me. At 4:55 p.m., Mrs. Chun called. Patricia just pulled up. Should I watch? No, I said, give them privacy. But call me when she leaves. Those minutes were the longest of my life. I imagined Brandon's face reading my words. Would he be relieved? Angry? Both? At 5:47 p.m., Mrs. Chun called back. Patricia left. Brandon still inside. Richard. I don't know what was in that letter, but I've never heard someone cry like that. Should I check on him? Not yet. Give him an hour to process. Then check if you're worried. I ended the call and immediately regretted my decision to wait. What if Brandon did something rash? What if the relief or anger overwhelmed him? I need to go back, I told Thomas suddenly. Now, I need to be there. Okay, Thomas said, already grabbing his keys. Let's go. The drive from Colorado to my home in Nebraska was 9 hours. We left immediately, drove through the night. The letter I'd written explained everything. Brandon, by the time you read this, I've been gone 60 days. I'm safe. I'm alive. I'm staying with your Uncle Thomas in Colorado. I left because of what you said, that you wished I was dead. But more than that, I left because I realized I was killing you with kindness. I was enabling you to waste your life. You're smart, capable, and talented. But you were throwing it all away playing video games in my basement. I loved you too much to watch that continue. So I gave you what you said you wanted, a life without me in it. I wanted you to feel what it would really be like if I was gone, to understand what you were taking for granted. From what I've been told, you've changed. You got a job. You're taking responsibility. You're becoming the man I always knew you could be. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry for the pain this caused, but I'm not sorry for doing it. Sometimes the hardest love is the truest love. I'll be home in 1 week. We'll talk then. I love you. Always have. Always will. Dad. Brandon read that letter a dozen times, according to Mrs. Chun, who checked on him after an hour. He was sitting on the living room floor, letter in his hands, crying but smiling. He asked me to tell you he understands. Mrs. Chun reported when she called me during our drive. He said, tell my dad I understand, and I'm not angry. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I love him, and I'll be ready when he comes home. I had to pull over and let Thomas drive the rest of the way because I was crying too hard to see the road. We arrived at my house at 3 a.m. on day 61. I told Brandon I'd be home in a week, but I couldn't wait. I needed to see my son. The house was dark. I used my key quietly, stepped inside. Everything was immaculate. Clean dishes in the rack. Vacuum carpets. Fresh flowers on the dining table. Flowers Brandon must have bought. I walked upstairs to Brandon's room. He was asleep, but his sleep seemed peaceful for the first time in weeks based on Mrs. Chen's observations. I almost woke him. Almost. But Thomas grabbed my arm. Morning, he whispered. Let him sleep. You've both been through enough. Rest. Talk in the morning when you're both ready. We crashed in my room. I barely slept, too anxious and excited to see Brandon's face. At 7 a.m., I heard movement downstairs. Brandon was up, making coffee. I heard him humming, something he used to do when he was happy as a kid. I came downstairs quietly. Brandon was at the counter, back to me, pouring coffee. I cleared my throat. He spun around, dropped the mug. It shattered on the floor. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then Brandon crossed the room in 3 steps and grabbed me in the tightest hug I'd ever felt. Dad, Dad, you're really here. You're really okay. We held each other and cried. Thomas quietly cleaned up the broken mug, then slipped away to give us privacy. Finally, Brandon pulled back, hands on my shoulders, looking at me like he was confirming I was real. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it. I swear I didn't mean it. I know, son. I know. But you left. You made me think. His voice broke. I thought you were dead. I thought I'd lost you, and the last thing I'd said was that terrible thing, and... Brandon breathed, I said, guiding him to the couch. I'm here. I'm okay. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. But I'm not sorry for doing it. He nodded, wiping his eyes. I read your letter about 100 times. You were right. About everything. I was wasting my life. Taking you for granted. Acting like a spoiled child. You're young. You were lost after losing your mom. I enabled it because I was grieving too. We both made mistakes. But I said I wish you were dead. Brandon's face crumpled with shame. What kind of person says that to their father? A person who's hurting and doesn't know how to express it properly, I said. A person who needed a wake-up call, which you got. We talked for hours. Brandon told me about the 60 days, the terror when he found my note, the frantic searching, the moment he realized he had to function anyway. The second week was the hardest, he admitted. I had to decide, do I fall apart or do I keep going? And I realized if you were really gone, falling apart wouldn't bring you back. So I started doing the things you'd always ask me to do. Getting a job, taking care of the house, living like an adult. I'm proud of you, I said, really proud. You didn't just survive, you thrived. I got a job, he said, something like wonder in his voice. I'm actually good at it, Dad. My boss says I have potential. They're already talking about promoting me to a project coordinator role. That was my son. Smart and capable when he applied himself. And I've been going to therapy, Brandon continued. Started 2 weeks ago. I realized I never dealt with losing Mom. Just buried it in video games and avoiding reality. That admission meant everything. That's huge, Brandon. Really huge. The therapist said I was stuck in adolescence. That I needed to experience consequences to grow up. You gave me those consequences. He looked at me seriously. This was brutal, Dad, but it worked. I'm not the same person I was 60 days ago. Thomas emerged from the guest room around noon. You two figured things out? Brandon stood up and hugged his uncle. Thanks for hiding him. I know you were part of this. Your dad loves you, Thomas said simply. Sometimes love looks harsh from the outside. We spent the day together. The three of us, talking, laughing, even crying a few more times. It felt like healing, like a family rebuilding. That evening, Brandon made dinner. Actually cooked from scratch. Chicken stir-fry with vegetables. It was delicious. When did you learn to cook? I asked, impressed. YouTube videos during week 3. He admitted with a sheepish smile. Eating takeout every day was expensive and unhealthy. Plus, I remembered Mom loved cooking. Wanted to feel close to her. After dinner, Brandon showed me his budget spreadsheet. He'd been tracking every penny, making sure the money I'd left stretched appropriately. I wanted to prove I could manage, he explained. That I wasn't just a kid who needed Dad to handle everything. You proved it, I assured him. You more than proved it. That night, Brandon asked if we could visit Karen's grave together the next day. I want to tell Mom you're home. And I want to apologize to her too, for how I treated you. Sunday morning, we drove to the cemetery together. It was a beautiful spring day, warm with cherry blossoms blooming. Karen would have loved it. We stood at her grave, fresh flowers in hand. Brandon spoke first. Hi, Mom. Dad's home. He's okay. I'm okay. I'm sorry for how I acted. Sorry for wasting the life you and Dad worked so hard to give me. I'm doing better now. Working. Growing up. Trying to be someone you'd be proud of. My throat tightened. Karen would have been proud. So proud. I miss you, Karen, I said, touching her headstone. I had to do something hard with Brandon. Something you might not have agreed with. But it worked. Our boy is finding his way. We stood there for a long time, quiet, remembering her. Finally, Brandon said, "Dad, I've been thinking. I want to move out." My heart sank despite everything. "What?" "Not because I'm ungrateful," he quickly clarified, "but because I need to prove I can make it on my own. Really on my own. I found an apartment I can afford with my salary. It's small, but it's mine. I need to do this." I understood completely. "I think that's a wise choice, son. But I want to have dinner with you every Sunday. Keep us close. Keep me accountable." "Deal," I agreed, pulling him into a hug. Brandon moved into his apartment 2 weeks later. It was a studio in a modest building, nothing fancy, but he was so proud showing it to me. "I'm paying my own rent," he said, grinning, "with money I earned. That's a first." I helped him move his things. Not much, since he was starting fresh. We bought basic furniture together at IKEA, assembled it while joking about the confusing instructions. It felt like bonding in a way we never had when he lived in my basement. We were relating as adults now, not parent and child. "Dad," Brandon said while we were building his bookshelf, "I need to ask, were you really in Colorado the whole time?" "Yes. Your uncle took me in, no questions asked." "And you watched me the whole time? Through Mrs. Chun?" "Yes. I needed to know you were safe, but I also needed you to struggle, to figure things out without me swooping in to save you." Brandon was quiet, thoughtfully tightening a screw. It was the right call. I hated every minute of it, but it was right. That meant everything to me. Understanding, acceptance, growth. His first night in his apartment, Brandon sent me a photo. Him sitting on his new couch, eating ramen but smiling. Caption, "Living the dream. Thanks for believing I could do this." Over the next few months, I watched Brandon truly flourish. He got his promotion at work. Started dating a nice woman named Jessica. He met at a coffee shop. Joined a gym. Made new friends. Every Sunday, he came over for dinner like he'd promised. We'd cook together, talk about our weeks, share advice and stories. Sometimes Thomas visited and joined us. "You know what's weird?" Brandon said one Sunday in August. "I have my own life now. Real responsibilities, real relationships, real purpose. And I'm happy, like genuinely happy, not distracted or numb. Actually happy. That's what I wanted for you," I said. "Not misery, just life, real life." "I wasted so much time," he said with regret. "You were lost. Now you're found. That's what matters." Brandon's relationship with Jessica got serious. She was a kindergarten teacher, kind and grounded. She was good for him, and he was good for her. "Dad, I think I'm going to propose," Brandon told me one evening in October. "You sure you're ready?" I asked. A year ago, I would have said no. But now, I have a career. I'm financially stable. I'm emotionally healthy. And I love her. I'm ready. He proposed on Thanksgiving. Jessica said yes. They set a wedding date for the following summer. During the wedding planning, Brandon asked me to be his best man. "You're my hero, Dad. You saved my life by disappearing from it." I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. I'm honored. I said, fighting back tears. The wedding was beautiful. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Brandon looked so handsome in his tux, so mature and confident. During his vows, he mentioned his journey. 2 years ago, I was lost. I was wasting my life and pushing away the people who loved me. But someone loved me enough to give me tough love, to let me struggle so I could find myself. "Dad, thank you. Jessica, I promise to be the man you deserve. The man I learned how to be." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. At the reception, Brandon pulled me aside. "I want to tell you something. Jessica and I are planning to name our first son Richard. After you." I couldn't speak. Just hugged him tight. "You gave me my life back," he whispered. "I want to honor that." Looking back now, disappearing was the hardest thing I ever did. Watching Brandon suffer was torture. Questioning my decision every single day was agonizing. But it worked. My son found himself. found his strength, found his purpose. A year after the wedding, Jessica gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Richard Brandon Morrison, Little Richie. Holding my grandson for the first time, seeing Brandon as a father, I felt vindication for every painful moment of those 60 days. "You're going to be an amazing dad," I told Brandon in the hospital. "I learned from the best," he replied, "even when you were teaching me the hard way." Brandon was an incredible father, patient, present, engaged, everything I'd hoped he'd become. I think about those 60 days sometimes. Brandon told me one afternoon while we watched Richie sleep. How terrified I was, how lost I felt, but also how it forced me to grow up, to become someone capable of handling this. He gestured to his sleeping son. "You would have gotten there eventually," I said. "Maybe, but how much longer would I have wasted? How many more years of my life would I have thrown away? You gave me a gift, Dad. A painful, terrible, necessary gift." That's what I'd hoped he'd understand. Not just that he was wrong, but that the correction was an act of love. "I'm sorry I said I wish you were dead," Brandon said quietly. "That haunts me still. I forgave you the moment you said it." I assured him, "I just needed you to forgive yourself and to become someone who'd never say it again." Today, I'm 60 years old. Brandon is 28. He's a senior project manager at his marketing firm. He owns a house with Jessica. They're raising Richie and expecting a daughter in 3 months. We have dinner every Sunday without fail. Sometimes at his house, sometimes at mine, always together, always honest. Brandon volunteers with troubled young adults now, helping kids who are lost like he was. "Someone gave me a second chance," he explains. I want to pass that forward. He tells a story openly about hitting rock bottom emotionally, about his father's drastic intervention, about rebuilding his life from scratch. The kids listen because Brandon doesn't judge. He understands. "Your dad faked his death?" One kid asked during a session I observed. "He didn't fake it," Brandon corrected. "He disappeared to teach me a lesson about value, about consequences, about not taking people for granted." "That's harsh." "It was," Brandon agreed, "but it was also necessary. I was drowning and didn't know it. He threw me a life raft by taking himself away, made me swim, and I'm stronger for it. I'm proud beyond words of who my son became, not just successful professionally, but good, kind, purposeful. People sometimes ask if I regret my methods, if I'd do it again knowing the pain it caused. My answer is always the same. I regret the pain, but not the action. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone struggle. Let them fail. Let them discover their own strength. Brandon and I have a relationship now that's deeper than before, built on honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. We don't take each other for granted. We express appreciation regularly. "I love you, Dad," Brandon says at the end of every visit, not casually, meaningfully. "I love you too, son." I always reply, "Proud of you," every single day. Last month, on the anniversary of the day I disappeared, Brandon did something unexpected. He took me to dinner at a nice restaurant. 3 years ago today, you disappeared from my life," he said, raising his glass. "It was the worst and best thing that ever happened to me. So I want to toast you to the dad who loved me enough to let me struggle, who risked our relationship to save my life. Thank you." We clinked glasses, both of us emotional. "Would you do it again?" I asked. "If you had a time machine?" Brandon thought about it seriously. "Yes, because that struggle made me who I am. And I like who I am now. That's all I ever wanted. For my son to like himself, to be proud of himself, to live a life worth living. The question people really want answered is, should parents ever do what I did? Should you disappear from your child's life to teach them a lesson? I can't answer that universally. Every family is different. Every situation unique. What worked for Brandon might destroy someone else. What I can say is this: enabling your children doesn't help them. Protecting them from every consequence doesn't prepare them for life. Sometimes the kindest thing is to step back and let them struggle, but you have to do it with love, with safety nets in place, with a plan to return, and with the understanding that they might never forgive you. I was lucky. Brandon understood. He grew. He forgave. Not everyone will. My son shouted that he wished I was dead, so I gave him a taste of what that would mean. I let him feel the loss, experience the regret, understand what he was taking for granted. It was brutal. It was risky. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it saved my son's life. And for that, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Brandon is thriving now. He's a husband, a father, a professional, a mentor. He's everything I hoped he'd become. And he got there because I loved him enough to disappear. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the space to find themselves, even if that space feels like abandonment, even if it breaks both your hearts temporarily, because temporary pain can lead to permanent growth, and that's worth everything. My son wished me dead, so I showed him what that meant, and in doing so, I gave him life, real life, full life, his own life, and that's the greatest gift a parent can give. If this story moved you, please hit subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to use tough love with someone you care about? How did it turn out? I'd love to hear your experiences. Remember, sometimes the hardest love is the truest love, and real growth often comes from struggle. Thanks for reading, and never underestimate the power of letting someone find their own strength.